Hello and welcome to Bastionland Broadcasting, where tonight we're back after a few weeks of absence. It was meant to be 1 week and then I forgot I had a thing that I'd had booked for like months and I'd completely forgot about it. So we're back as normal tonight. And I thought since we've had a little bit of a break, come back, look at something new. And that new thing is Eco Mofos. Now, if you're looking at this and thinking that the title of the video here is like Eco MFOS, it's because I think apparently Mofos, well, either the word Eco or Mofos, like tripped some sort of filter in my on my stream for either YouTube or Twitch. I'm not sure, but somebody doesn't like the word Mofos, so that's why we're operating on a slightly different name tonight. But Eco Mofos is an upcoming and an existing TTRPG. It's currently on Kickstarter. It's written by David Blandy and the art is by Daniel Locke. We'll get the boring business out of the way first, which is that this is not a paid video. I saw this game. I thought it looked cool. I got in touch with David and said, would you mind if I did a read-through on stream? And David sent me a PDF. So that's what I have received for this. The game is currently on Kickstarter, but I'm unfortunately not receiving any of the kickback from that. So this is purely out of curiosity. Now, I do have a slight ulterior motive with this, because part of the reason that this appealed to me so much is this is a Mark of the Odd game. So Mark of the Odd is a stamp that you can put on your game if you're using Into the Odd as kind of a skeleton for your game. And what I thought would be interesting would be, I know I've looked through some other Mark of the Odd games before, like Runecairn, Cairn, everything that was in the Eclectic Bastion jam. I've looked through a lot of stuff before, and it's always interesting to see what people keep, what people change, and what people do with the system. So for full transparency, this is a preview PDF of Eco Mofos, the new version with new layout and new artwork. And I'm not going to be reading this one because it is, like I said, it is a partial PDF, so it only goes up to sort of page 22, but gives you a sense of what we can expect from the layout and the artwork. But like I said, even though this game is currently on Kickstarter, it's already on itch.io. You can go and buy the PDF right now if you don't want to back the final fancy art and layout version. And this is the version that is on itch.io. So the pitch for Eco Mofos, I gather, is kind of like, I think that they would take issue with me calling it post-apocalyptic, but there's definitely some of that post-apocalypse feel to it. But it is kind of, one of the mantras of the game is that it's not grimdark, it's like weird hope. So it's trying to put a slightly more positive spin on a kind of apocalypse, I guess. And we're going to be discovering it as we go, because I have flicked through it. I obviously read the Kickstarter page because that's what made me think it looked cool enough to do a read-through of. But I've not actually looked through this in much detail. So we're going to be discovering this together as we go through. So we have, let's get to it. It's a strong start when I get a thank you in the credits. Obviously, it's a Mark of the Odd game. So it's I think you have to link bastionland.com. I can't remember what I put in as the requirement. But something that's especially interesting about this game is it's not just drawing from Into the Odd and Electric Bastionland. It's drawing from Mythic Bastionland, which, as you might know, is a game that doesn't really exist yet. And some of the bits that David has taken from Mythic Bastionland are obviously from the playtest document, and some of them aren't actually in there anymore. So it's a really interesting kind of thing where he's taken influence from something that has since been removed from Mythic Bastion, and so I guess it's up for grabs. So I guess he's taken it for himself. So let's very quickly get our introduction. So it's a mid-future cyber eco-punk ruin delving survival game. Player characters seek a safe homestead to start a new community. Around 200 years ago, everything went to shit. The wealthy who created this mess fucked off to Mars while the lucky ones hid in a vast underground bunker. We were left to fend for ourselves on the surface, eking out an existence in the broken world they left behind, searching for remnants of a past world to help us survive, searching for a place to call home. And yeah, we're a group of misfits that are going to go and try and discover this world. I guess, you know, the presence of like underground bunkers always makes me think of Fallout. I think that's a strong sort of campaign start. If it's literally you're coming out of the bunker and into the wasteland, I think that's a really good place to start a campaign. So that might be where I would go with this. So let's have a look how to play basics. You got saves, which seem very much like you would expect from a Mark of the Odd game. We've got advantage and disadvantage. Now, David did warn me because I know that I previously said that I think I said something to the effect of if people want to make a hack of Into the Odd or a game that's based on Into the Odd, I've kind of sometimes perhaps suggested that people don't add advantage and disadvantage. And I think the reason I've done that is it felt like for a while, a lot of the hacks I was seeing and a lot of the house rules I would see around Into the Odd, people were putting in advantage and disadvantage almost like by default. And I think they can work very well as mechanics, but I kind of didn't want it to just become like a fix for Into the Odd that I didn't think that it needed. So I think you can make it work, but I'm always very stringent on thinking, well, do I need this? Or can this system as it is work by presenting difficulty in different ways rather than having advantage and disadvantage? But we'll see how it's implemented in here. We've got hurt protection instead of hit protection, and everything else seems kind of what you would expect. Yeah. So the world is horrible, as we would expect. We've got wastes, we've got ruins, and we've got hid silos, havens, and bunkers. We've got various types of people that are in this world. And yeah, it's a little introduction to the world, but I'm going to jump straight to, you know, where I started things with Into the Odd, which is go straight into your character. So we are a band of orphans, outcasts, and weirdos with a shared vision of a peaceful glade hidden in a corner of this broken world. 2d6 plus. Let's do it. Let's make a character. 2d6 plus 3 for ability scores. Weirdly, Into the Odd used. What did I use back in? There was a point where I used something. It was 2d6 plus something. It might have been 2d6 plus 3. Gives you quite a nice spread of like 5 to 15 on your ability scores. So I do like. I like it when it works. 2d6 plus 3. So we're going to have our strength is 7. You know, I've done this. Strength, dexterity, willpower. We do also have luck as well. Although it pains me that I can't easily. Oh, LCK. Okay. Right. Let's roll the rest of our scores. 7 again. I mean, the thing with 2d6 plus 3 over 3d6 is it does give you a wider spread of results. Not a wider spread, but it's less pushed to the middle. It's a slightly more even distribution. So 11 is 14, and so is luck like our HP? No, luck is different. Oh, luck is 2d6 plus 3 and half the total. Okay. Interested to see. Oh God, I'm interested to see how luck works out. So our luck's going to be 3, and then our HP. I'm assuming it's going to be 1d6. Let me check. Oh no. We don't roll HP. We're going to get that. Jump in the gun. So here we go. This is our person. So roll D66 for your starting adaptation that has helped you survive in the maelstrom of the surface. Or choose if you think that's more fun. Choosing is not fun. I mean, it can be, but choosing is not the way we're rolling tonight. 26. So that means we're telekinetic. So I guess that means we're 2 HP. Okay, that's a nice way of doing it. So we are a telekinetic. I can never spell that. That's definitely not how you spell it. That's nowhere near how you spell. No, what was that? I was right. It's there's too many. I can't do this and talk at the same time. Telekinetic. There we go. I was right. So this is our telekinetic character. Okay, we can choose to follow a life path, risking burdens and death, to gain extra adaptations. You may take one item from the gear list for each adaptation you gain during the process. If your character ever gains 3 burdens or dies during the life path, your character is discarded and you must create a new punk. So there is a life path. Let's do a little bit of life path. So we're going to play it quite safe with the life path because I want to get on to the rest of the book. Yeah, we start with our luck's worth of shots in juice, used in lieu of currency. Okay, so we have 3 juice. Okay, so you see mention of like burdens, and this is the connection to Mythic Bastionland, because Mythic Bastionland did have a system of burdens, which were sort of not quite status effects, but like things that your character would gain. And if you had 3 of them, it was very bad, and you could get rid of them by doing specific things. There are other like systems like this in other games, but I think this one is pretty close to how it worked in Mythic Bastionland. Yeah, so there are the actual burdens themselves are different to the ones I was using. But yeah, they're still a cool idea. I did like them. That I just kind of felt like I wanted to go in a different direction with it. So I'm interested to see how they work out here. If this turns out to be like the hot mechanic of the next decade and I passed up on it, then I will be begrudgingly glad for David that he got to use that in my absence. Okay, life path. Roll 2d6 and use this chart. Each roll adds a decade to their age. On death or on gaining your 3rd burden, your character dies alone. Okay, let's just do one extra decade. So I'm guessing we start off at like 18 or whatever. Let's do one more. 6. Hard times, roll a burden. Ugh. Okay, so what's our burden going to be? 6, we're enraged. Okay, cool. Now, I said I was going to do 1. I'm obviously going to do another one now because that was terrible. And this is how I can see now how this system is going to grab people. 11. A moment of good luck or a friendship made. Gain an adaptation. Great. I mean, we've had a bad result and a good result. Let's get a new adaptation. 42. Rogue Shadow. Okay, so we are telekinetic, and we're also going to have, I think, 1 piece of equipment from Shadow. I think we get both. Let me double check. You can choose to follow a life path. You may take 1 item from the gear list for each adaptation you gain during the process. Okay, so we're going to take 1 item from telekinetic and 1 item from Shadow. Okay, we have a contest system, which is kind of, again, something that is I see in this kind of game, the kind of Mark of the Odd game quite often. It's quite a nice little addition. I tend to just not include them because I'm stubborn. And you can have companions, as you might expect. Now here we go, adaptations. This is the other new thing. During the adventure, if the correct key item is found, you can choose to gain an adaptation. Okay, so that's like leveling up. But it's not that straightforward. Okay, cool. So let's find out what our items are. So we had a telekinetic. So this is where the key item is. So we're going to be looking for a magnetic stone. Okay, so each sort of adaptation needs its own like piece of equipment. Not needs it, but the equipment helps it kind of develop. Okay, risk a burden to return to move objects and reshape any metal within sight. Okay, so you basically make a save, and if you fail the save, you still do the thing, but you take a burden, I guess. And we can choose one of these items. Metal braces are always cool. I mean, I know it seems a bit gamey to go straight for the armor, but I'm going to do it. Metal braces. Which gives me armor 1. And then we had the shadow. When leading the group gains advantage on stealth rolls, and I have advantage on all rolls to hide. So I'm sneaky. Razor sharp boomerang, glass shank, body armor, iron gauntlet, shard of a mirror, pills. Let's take the boomerang. Come on. One of the iconic post-apocalyptic weapons of all time. Okay, that's our character. And that's it, I think. That's it, we're ready to go. So yeah, life path system where you can die, obviously reminiscent of like Traveller. I'm always slightly skeptical of these systems, but I think here it works. I think it feels like it's quick enough that if you die, I would kind of look forward to going back to stage 1 almost. Whereas with some of these systems, it feels like you put in a lot of work to get to a certain age, and then when you die, it's like, well, I've just done all that accounting, and now I have to go back and do all that accounting again. So the fact that this is quick makes me much more on board with it. So trade is done by Juice. Supply is an abstract item representing a basic gear. Okay, yeah. At any point, you can trade a supply they carry for any simple, commonly available item. Contentious mechanic, but I actually quite like this sort of thing. I think it can be good. Yeah, it's up to the GM which items can be acquired using supply and which should be bought separately. And it can be used to repair. So yeah, if you've got like 6 supply, then you know that you can use it to get items that you need or repair things, but you haven't got to worry about, well, what do I actually have the means to repair? It's all kind of abstracted, and I like that. Wear and repair. If a 1 is rolled during combat, the weapon gains wear. The weapon rolls with disadvantage. Roll another 1 and it's broken. You want to talk about contentious mechanics, weapon breakage. You're gonna make yourself some enemies here with this one. But again, for the theme, it's a perfect fit, especially because you've got this supply system that ties into it. Yeah, that's pretty nice. I do like that a lot so far. 10 inventory slots. If there's a diminishing resource, then roll 2d6 each time it's used. On a combined score of 2 to 6, reduce the die to a d6. And then when using a d6, if the roll is a 1, there is only 1 left. Okay, so it's kind of like usage die, but it's like a little bit different. I can't help but think about whether this could be a d6 roll. But I'm not going to crunch the probabilities straight in my head right now. Okay. This ingredients table, you can collect ingredients to make remedies and stuff. Oh, okay, so you need 3 of them to make the thing. I should probably read it. Combine any 3 different ingredients and roll for the result. This combination is now fixed in your game. That's cool. Okay, so yeah. You pick, say, the brown carp, the radish, and the bird egg, and then you might roll, and that lets you breathe fire, but that recipe is now locked in for your game. That's cool, and it's simple. You know, you might think, well, shouldn't there be a system where, like, if you change one ingredient, it just changes the effect slightly? But that is a lot of work to do that. So I think this is very nice as a kind of very nice, quick system to have those kind of cool effects. This is the kind of table that I really like, where Oh, okay, so it's a D66 table of stuff, which is split into different types. One thing I like in games is a game that has the confidence to do something like this, where the item for hubcap breastplate, its value is 2, its slots are 2, and its armor is 1. Is exactly the same mechanically as shredded tire body armor, but the presence of both of these tells you about the world. And I know I'm a broken record. I know I always go on about, oh well, this tells you about the world, but it does. Like, this is reading through this helps me picture the world in a way that it wouldn't if it was just called heavy armor, for instance. So like in my games, what I tend to do is I tend to have the broad categories but then include examples. Here it's just like a straight up list, and I think it works really well. And I like that, you know, some items are the same, they're just slightly more expensive. It makes things feel a bit more real. And I don't mean real in the like simulationist sense, I just mean like some things are just more expensive. They might not be better, they're just more expensive to make. And some things might be effectively the same mechanically, but your player is going to care whether they're wearing a hubcap or a shredded tire. They're definitely going to care. And same with weapons. We've got a lot of weapons that are kind of quite a couple that are, well, I'm not, you know, they do look slightly different here, but I'm sure there's one or two. Here we go. So like the wooden staff and the sharpened spear are the same mechanically, but I like that they're both in there. Okay, then we've got a unique stuff table. There are a lot of tables in here. This is a good way to present this kind of world, especially I feel like this kind of post-apocalyptic world. A lot of the storytelling that you see in this kind of world, I feel like a lot of it is through its items, because the way that I'm picturing this setting, the way that I've internalized this story is that perhaps people have been absent for a while and other people are kind of re-emerging. So a lot of the stuff that's lying around is kind of more a part of the world than the people almost. So I like the fact that it has this focus on things. Right, how to play. It's going to be into the odd, hopefully. It's all looking pretty standard. Look, okay, so I didn't see how look worked. So you can burn it to modify a save, adding or removing the amount spent from the roll result. So kind of similar-ish to how it works in like Fighting Fantasy, where you can look as kind of a resource you can burn through to give you a little bit of extra help. And yeah, the more you use it, the less look is going to go in your favor. I remember reading Fighting Fantasy back in the day, and I remember I always thought luck was a stupid thing, because when I was like I guess a young teenager, maybe a bit younger than that, I remember thinking I was so clever because I was like, well, luck is already present in the game, because luck is how you roll the dice, and you don't need to have a mechanic in there for luck, because the fact they were rolling dice, that's luck. So luck is a stupid mechanic. Then you should get rid of it. But I've since really come around to the idea, because I love the idea that luck is this thing that your character has that you can kind of burn through, and their life will just get slightly worse. Like here it talks about like the weather. So like if you use your luck to get out of a load of bad situations, that's going to catch up with you, because now the weather's going to be bad. And it's not realistic, like I said before, but it feels like it's a fun thing to play with. So I'm really coming around to kind of luck systems lately. Okay, everything else seems kind of standard. Oh, ranged weapons roll damage in melee, but only hit if the die shows a maximum. So the bigger ranged weapons are going to be quite hard to actually use in melee, which is interesting. Yeah, everything else is looking pretty familiar, which is good. Okay. Now here we go. Deprivation and burdens. Obviously, burdens, like I've said, are this thing from Mythic Bastion. And well, they are, but I want to be clear that I took a lot of inspiration from games like Cairn and Ruin Cairn, Mouse Ritter. A lot of games used into the odd and added something on like this kind of burdens system where you kind of had these things that weigh you down. And my system for burdens was a bit different to those, but it was definitely inspired by those. So I do want to like give credit where credit's due, absolutely. We've got a magic system. Okay, so orbs take up 2 inventory slots. They display unusual properties or limitations, may be produced a foul or unearthly smell. Okay. Symbol orbs contain 3 random spells. Yeah, so your orbs it's like a little spell book. An orb contains spells. And here's our spell list. So how many have we got? 100. Nice. You can enhance a spell with time, or you can make a save to do it in like a risky situation. So let's look at these spells. We've got some familiar ones here, but I like that they're kind of written out in quite a straightforward way. I like Cone of Foam if it feels like it's a good twist on a classic. So yeah, these are familiar. Ooze form feels nice. Yeah, I like them. They're good, straightforward, simple spells. Like X-ray vision, you can see through walls, dirt, clothing, etc. Web, your wrist shoot thick webbing, and it doesn't say how that's used. It's just straightforward. So that's yeah. The magic system seems like I'd expect for a nice straightforward magic system to bolt onto it. So starting a game. This is how to get the game set up. I'm interested in seeing like the structure because it talks here about the adventure procedure. So it's designed as a point crawl adventure, working with a set of pre-generated maps. So you're working in week scale, day scale, and hour scale, depending on how you're engaging with the map. And you start at a crossroads at a time of crisis. Your glade has been destroyed, and you must flee. Okay, so we're not coming straight out of the vault like in Fallout, like I said. And yeah, it's talking through it. It's taken us through the process for like a first session, which is handy. And yeah, a good kind of system for point crawls as well. That's cool. And we've got some encounter tables. We've got some nice art. Oh, we've got some nice little point crawls ready to go. That's pretty cool. Yeah, having them pre-made is nice. I've got a system in Mythic Bastion Land where I kind of say, well, you can kind of draw your own little system of notes, but I feel like it might be a little bit involved to do on the fly unless you practiced it a few times. So yeah, it is nice to have these sort of pre-made things. I always want to give people the tools to make their own thing, when I think it is sometimes easy to undervalue the usefulness of just having stuff ready to go. So we've got travelling speeds. Yes, if you want to go fast, you've got to test luck. You can go normal pace and follow the normal procedure, or you can go at slow pace, which might mean you find extra stuff. That's a nice, straightforward scale there. It's interesting that it's a choice. It's not broken down by terrain, which is good. I guess you're kind of incentivized to not travel at fast pace through dangerous areas because you're more likely to get an encounter. So these are our environments. So let's do it. So we're in Wastelands, Wilderness, Ruins. Let's do the Wilderness, and we're going to get 4d20. And let's see what area we get. So 16 and 5. Woodland gives way to a shining lake of clear water. And the floor is a carpet of moving centipedes. Well, that's horrible. And then we had 12 and 13. The hazard is sinkholes and subsidence. Fall into a bunker. Okay, so it's like a trap. And then 13, an abandoned mobile home. The inside is pristine. Roll 2d6 times on the D666 items table. So yeah, I think what I saw was part of the pitch of this game is also to make it very low prep. So it's kind of procedurally generating the world as you go, which is good. We've got our bunkers, we've got strongholds, glades, and then we're into the bestiary. So let's find some meat in here. So the Ur-bear feels particularly horrible. And again, familiar if you've played Cairn or Into the Ard or Electric Bastion, and familiar stat blocks. And yeah, we've got some cool monsters in here. An essential troll. 8-foot tall humanoids with dark oily bodies, shimmering with gems of juice. Consume the flesh of other humanoids. Okay. They can drain the target's essence. And if the target dies, they are raised as the thrall of the troll. It's a particularly nasty troll, I have to say. I'm used to more sympathetic trolls lately. So we've got like a faction system as well. So there's something like faction roles based on like with difficulty classes. So this feels like a definite departure from Into the Odd. So this is kind of like a completely different system that's added on. So we've got a system for managing factions in the game. Again, I don't want to say. What is it? No, it reminds me of something and I forget the name of it. But there's a number of games that have these kind of faction systems. But this looks pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Got some sample factions, which is good. Random events. So they happen at the end of each game week or each game session. I'm coming more and more around to the idea of like time limits based on real world times. This is like for another blog post, but like I used to really not like abilities where it was like once per session you can do this, or games that use like real world time, so like things that cool down after an hour, for instance. But I'm coming round to them now because there is something quite nice and straightforward about just saying like, look, you can do this once per session and this happens at the end of the session. And what you lose in that kind of groundedness in the fiction of the world, for some things I think you gain more than you lose. So that's a rant for another day. We've got a solo system. I saw that there's going to be like a full solo system in the final game. Example of play, and then we've got an oracle here. I do like an oracle. This is pretty nice. And we've got our NPC creator, and that is it. So like I said, this is the version that exists now that you can buy on itch.io. This is a sort of rough version of how it's going to look in the final version. One of the things that I noticed in here that I really like is I like the kind of having the principles of the game down here. Obviously there's gaps where it's not been added in yet, but I like one of the things about Cairn that really stuck with me is the player principles and the GM principles. So it's nice to have them kind of here in the sidebar alongside the main section. So yeah, that's Eco Mofos. So, like I say, it's currently on Kickstarter. If that's interesting to you at all, go and check it out. I'm always on the lookout for more Mark of the Odd games. I think there are so many now that let me be careful how to phrase this. There was a while when like anything that was based on Into the Odd, I was just like so thrilled that anyone was doing anything based on Into the Odd that I was just like happy to see it. But now there's so many, it's actually interesting because now I feel like I'm getting a taste for which ones I really like and which ones I think I probably wouldn't use that myself. And it's interesting to see so many different things being done with it. So anything else that people see that is related to Into the Odd or a Mark of the Odd game, do be sure to let me know, because I don't always see these things until they're already on Kickstarter. Or if you're working on something, let me know. But until next time, I think we can say that Eco Mofos looks pretty cool. If you want to find out more about the games I make, you can go to bastionland.com. If you want to support this stream, you can go to patreon.com/bastionland. And if you go to bastionland.com, there are also links to things like the Discord server, where you can keep up to date with everything that's going on with me. So until next time, this has been Eco Mofos by David Blandy and Daniel Locke. And this has been Bastionland Broadcasting, and goodbye for now.